Well, good evening. Welcome to church on Saturday night, friends. We are so glad that you are here. And for those who are joining us or who will join us tomorrow on our live stream and video, we welcome you. I wonder if I were to ask you if you had a favorite liturgical season. I know that's such a churchy thing to ask a lot of people who would probably say, you've got to be kidding, right? But I'm going to ask it anyway. Do you have a favorite liturgical season? Lent, Advent, Easter, Ordinary Time, Epiphany Tide. Same thing, right? Are you more of an incarnational person? Maybe you're a resurrection person where you take everything to the cross. You can take any story, any idea, any thought, and take it straight to the foot of the cross. I know those people. I'm not that person. Maybe you're an atonement person, right? The seasons are here, as we know, to help guide us through our days and our weeks and our years and our lives. And as I thought about what was supposed to be tomorrow night's Celtic service in the midst of the season of Epiphany Tide, I started to think about the amazing connection, if you will, the confluence of our Celtic service and the season of Epiphany, which is why I chose tonight's reading as the reading. Now, some of you do come to Celtic on a regular basis, and you know that the reading that is chosen for our Celtic service is not always one of the readings that is read at the beginning on the regular Sunday principal feast. Sometimes the preacher during Celtic gets to get a little creative, and we get to choose. So that is why you are hearing the primary reading that is always read, the gospel that is always read on the feast of Epiphany. It's the story of the Magi, of course, following the star, finding the child and parents, and then going home by another road. Now, many of you, when we read this the first time this year in church, said to me as you were leaving, "That was a good homily, Kristen, but I really wish you had preached on that last line," or "That last line was my husband's favorite line in all of Scripture," or "Have you ever heard or have you ever read," and fill in all of the blanks, right? James Taylor has a song, "Home by Another Way." Barbara Brown Taylor, who I'm going to talk about, has a homily that even if you don't read homilies for fun, you've probably heard parts of this homily. It was turned into a children's book, right? All sorts of people have created songs and poems and books about one particular line in tonight's gospel reading, and that is the very last line that tells us that because the Magi were warned in a dream, they chose to go home by another road or another way. Yeah? Before we get to that other road, I want you just to open your bulletins with me for a second. Usually I try to keep you out of your bulletins while I'm up here trying to keep your attention, but tonight I'm going to ask you to look at your bulletins. And when we think about Epiphany Tide, think about light, darkness, transformation, right? All of the things that come along in this season that are key to this season. And then I just want to walk you through a couple of the prayers that we say together in this service, this specific service. I mean, you all know that when you walk into a Celtic service, it looks a little bit different than looking into a 10:15 or an 8 a.m. or even just a regular service, right? All of the lights, the candles, we dim the lights, all for a reason. And the first opening prayer, you'll see, "In the soft darkness of this moment," in the soft darkness of this moment, we kindle lights of hope for the world. We join with the saints who have lived and loved this place to give glory and praise to God. In a prayer for the evening, kindle in our hearts, O God, the flame of love that never ceases, that it may burn in us, giving light to others. May we shine forever in your temple. set on fire with your eternal light, even your Son, Jesus Christ, our Savior and Redeemer. Friends, Celtic spirituality is rife with epiphany language and imagery. So if you are one of those people who is drawn to this particular service, this Celtic service, you might just be an epiphany kind of gal or an epiphany kind of guy. Now, what does that mean? It means for you that probably what I'm about to say is not new to you. But for those of you who are not drawn to this service, and I know that some of you are here or some of you will be watching, you might learn a few things about Epiphany in this homily. Barbara Brown Taylor, who is probably one of the more, I don't know, is Barbara Brown Taylor still talked about constantly at seminary, or have you passed that? She still is. She's like the rock star priest who actually left the church. She was a priest in the Episcopal Church. She stepped down from kind of ordained life, regular parish ministry, to teach and to do other things. She writes prolifically. And her sermons are just works of art. They're just amazing and beautiful. And many of you might have heard her homily or read her homily, Home by Another Road. And it is kind of a retelling of the story that we all know and love of the Magi encountering God, in this case, the Christ child, right? Emmanuel, God with us. And the fact that they cannot leave that encounter as the same person, nor can they follow the same path that brought them there, because they have been transformed. And in her sermon, she paints at first the three magi as kind of three random seekers. We don't know who they were, we don't know where they were, but this guy was trying out reflexology and yoga and trying to figure out what life was all about over here. And then this other guy over here, well, he was a vegan and he was into astrology or whatever, right? So three men who were trying so hard to figure out life. The purpose of life, what the meaning of life, we're just trying to figure it out. And all three of them found that all of a sudden there was a star, she said, lodged in the corner of their eye, and they couldn't get it out. And so they followed said star. And as they were following this star, three strangers, they all came kind of together in one spot and recognized the star in each other's eyes, realized they were looking for the same thing, and ultimately, as we know, through a detour through King Herod's castle, found the Christ child. Yeah? We know this story. It's a fun homily if you ever have time. And, well, guess what, friends? You're going to be stuck at home for a couple of days, so you too can go online and search for Home by Another Way by Barbara Brown Taylor and read the whole thing. She said, she said that, I'll read to you a quick piece of it. The star was calling them out from everything that they knew how to manage and survive, calling them out from the reputations they had built for themselves, for the high expectations and the disappointing returns. This is what the star was calling them, until they all ran into each other and recognized the star. She has them awake the following day after they had found the child and given him the gifts, to find that the star had gone, vanished. No one had it in their eye anymore. She tells this wonderful story of Mary flipping blankets all around the house trying to find their stars, and the stars could not be found. And they said to Mary, never mind, they didn't need them anymore. They had found what they were looking for, and they couldn't lose it. Nor did they need their old maps, because they probably didn't need them anymore either. And as we know, having been warned in a dream, they would not return by the way of Jerusalem and King Herod, but leave for home by another road. A new way of journeying through life, shaped by attentiveness, shaped by love, shaped by wonder, shaped by justice and forgiveness and all of those things. The story is about being transformed by an encounter with the Christ child. If we were all meeting again tomorrow morning in church, you would hear the first reading for tomorrow morning, which is from the prophet Isaiah, that tells us that we live in a place of gloom, essentially, right? Reminds us that we are people who live in darkness, and yet we are called to the light. That is that transformative moment, the time that the Magi find the child. The star brings them to the light out of their own darkness, to this place of love and wonder, justice and forgiveness. Well, if that, friends, is the ultimate story of Epiphany, the reminder that we're drawn out of our own darkness by the light, to become the light in the world, to be transformed and to go a different way, I think I would change Barbara Brown Taylor's sermon. Don't tell anyone that I said that. I want those Magi to leave with the star lodged in their eye. I don't want them to think that they don't need it. Because you know and I know that even though every time we meet that Christ child and we find God yet again, we break bread together, we find God in another person, we find God in so many pieces and places of our life. When we go out, slowly that star begins to fade and the gloom and the darkness of humanity takes over again. So what if we modified that Epiphany message and her homily and created a new one where those stars lodged in their eyes stayed, so that when they went out, they could look in the faces of the people that they met and identify the star in others as well, in small kindnesses, in tears for a broken system, or injustice for their neighbors, in the desire to help others find safe harbor, or the willingness to sit with others in hard places, the ability to share in their joy just for the sake of their joy. Those with stars lodged in their eyes could be all of us, right? If we could take them with us, it would be so much easier to identify those we walk with who are following the same path. They probably don't look like us. They might not think like us. They might not love or vote like us. But what if you saw the star in everyone's eyes that had that encounter, that epiphany, that moment, transformative moment with Christ? I just got back today, just a couple of hours ago actually, from a couple of days in Harper's Ferry. Any fans of hiking in Harper's Ferry? Some of you might know we, poor George, 7-year-old, we made him hike the Maryland Heights hike, which if you know Harper's Ferry or you don't know Harper's Ferry, when you stand kind of in the small historic town of Harper's Ferry, you stand at the confluence of the Shenandoah River and the Potomac River out in front of you. And then there's a bridge that goes straight over, and on the other side is Maryland. And it's kind of pure rock face that goes straight up for quite some area. So we made George climb to the top of that, called Maryland Heights. He's not super happy about it, but we did, and it was beautiful. It was yesterday, so it was still warm enough. And by the time we finally got to the top of this rock face, and you could look down directly on the historic town of Harper's Ferry, and this confluence of these two mighty rivers coming together and then joining together and going down at once, I had my own little epiphany. My first instinct, and I don't know why I'm not proud of this, but my first instinct when I looked at them and said, so that's the Potomac, I know that, and that's the Shenandoah, but why when they join together, is it called just the Potomac? Like, that just doesn't seem fair to the Shenandoah. Like, the Shenandoah has just been consumed and absorbed, and nobody cares about the Shenandoah anymore. Why does the Potomac get all of the glory, right? I went into this whole spiel, and my husband kept looking at me like, I think you're missing the point, right? I think you're missing the point. And then all of a sudden I had this moment and thought, the confluence, that's it. That's the epiphany moment. That's the moment when you get that star lodged in your eye, when you and God come together in this place and join, and you join the flow and the call of God, transforming you. You're still you. The Shenandoah doesn't disappear. It feeds. It is part of, it becomes part of something that is even greater than itself. That, friends, is what the Epiphany is supposed to be. We don't lose ourselves. We're called to join that which is greater than ourselves and to go on together, entwined. So tonight, there is a prayer that we say together at the end of Celtic. And I want you to take this home with you as your Epiphany homework, to say this prayer with me as often as you can, whenever you find yourself in a moment where you have met yet again someone else with a star in their eye that brings you closer to God. And that prayer is this one, in gratitude, in deep gratitude for this moment, this meal, these people, whatever this star moment is for you. We give ourselves to you, O God. Send us out to live as changed people, because we have shared the living bread and cannot remain the same. Ask much of us, expect much from us, enable much by us, encourage many through us, that we may live to your glory. May you find that confluence, friends, tonight and often, and then go out and share it as a star lodged in your eye.